Everybody, welcome to the Pulpwood Queen channel. And this is Tracy Carnes reminding everybody to please subscribe if you haven't already done so that you don't miss one single episode of the incredible Kathy L. Murphy and all of her discussions and videos. And now, without further ado, here is the Pulpwood Queen herself, Kathy L. Murphy. Yay!
Well, I'm excited to be here tonight with all of you. We're coming from all over the world, because Suzanne Kamada's in Japan, and we've got Pamela and John from New York City and Tracy from Shreveport, Louisiana. We hope more will be jumping in. But if you're watching this later on the Pulpwood Queen channel, please subscribe. It's really important that you don't miss one of these authors' videos, because you get the full story. You get the story behind the story of their book, of their life, and we try to make it as fun as possible. So today, I'm really excited because this author was brought to me by another one of my authors, Bill Dedman, who wrote Empty Mansions. A lot of the Pulpwood Queens remember this story because it was just absolutely one of the most incredible nonfiction reads I've ever read. I want a movie. I want to go to the house out in California. I want to see the home in New York. I want to go to the hospital room where she lived the latter part of her life. I've always been a big fan of all the philanthropists and people who got their start back at the turn of the century and created such wonderful things as the city of Las Vegas, and he was a Montana businessman that came from Scotland, I believe. So anyway, but we're here today because Pamela was sent to me by Bill, and she has a book called Lady Be Good. But what is amazing about the story, which is one I had never heard before, and that's what I look for. When I'm looking for a book for the Pulpwood Queens and Timber Guys Book Club Reading Nation, I'm looking for a story that has not been told before. And I think it's wonderful that you're giving a voice to a woman who was not known. So Pamela, tell us a little bit first about, where you live, your background, and just a little behind the story, and I'll jump in when I have another.
Okay. Thank you. And let me just say thank you for having me. This is such a great honor. I'm so grateful. And I'm grateful to Bill. Everybody should read his book, Empty Mansions. It's an incredible story, true story. So I've always been a storyteller since I was very young. When I was very young, I would write poems and stories about small things that happen to kids. And by the time I was in high school, I had decided I wanted to be a TV news reporter. So I was pretty determined to do that. I'll back up a little bit. I grew up in New York on Long Island, on the North Shore of Long Island, actually. And after college, my first job was at NBC News. And I was hired as a researcher. I worked for a morning news show, and then I worked for the Today Show and the Weekend Today Show. And within a couple of years, I started producing stories. I think my first story was a profile of Dana Carvey, the comedian from Saturday Night Live.
Oh, yes, the church lady.
And I think my first on-air story might have been on the Neville Brothers.
Really?
Yeah, the
Neville. Love the Neville Brothers.
I know. That's how long ago it was. But I started producing pretty early on. I produced profiles of actors and musicians, human interest stories. So I would go all over the country interviewing everyday people about interesting things. And I really always loved shining a light on people and their stories. And even with the celebrity interviews or musician interviews, I always tried to find something inspirational in it, some gem that people could hold on to and, use for their own lives. So it was great fun. And I was there for nearly 15 years. I produced the Rockefeller Center concert series. I covered politics and breaking news. It was inevitable that another fire would break out in California. We would all stay there overnight. And it's a demanding job. Obviously, it takes over your life a little bit. There's no set hour. But I loved it. I really loved every minute of it. And so I was there for about 15 years and decided to take a little bit of a break. And so I took a hiatus and I moved to LA and spent a couple of years there and took a little bit of a longer hiatus. And I sailed from Florida to Australia over the course of 10 and a half months, but that's a long story for another day.
Another book, another
yeah.
I'm jealous now.
Oh yeah, it was really an incredible experience. And particularly after, first coming from the news world, and then moving to LA, sort of deep in the heart of the entertainment industry, to actually just be out on the open ocean, for 10 and a half months was like a cleansing of the soul, but that was an incredible experience. And then, throughout my life, I came upon this story about Dorothy Hale while I was a producer at NBC News. I never intended on becoming an author. I discovered her story by accident. I wanted to rent an apartment near to Rockefeller Center, where I was working at NBC. And I found an apartment in the Hampshire House, which is a chic Manhattan high rise where Dorothy Hale lived and died. It's the building in the Frida Kahlo portrait, actually, if any of you have seen it, the portrait. I had never heard of Dorothy Hale when I moved into this building. But before long, I sensed something had happened here. Something tragic had happened here. When you walk into an old building, I mean, in New York, these places are everywhere, whether it's at the old 21 Club or the Plaza Hotel or the St. Regis, that's just old New York. You walk in and you feel this incredible sense of history. And there's no you can't really explain why you got that feeling. I mean, in this case, I couldn't explain why I was getting the feeling something tragic had happened here. So I was curious enough to research the history of the building. This is so long ago, there wasn't that much information on the internet. So I finally uncovered an obituary about Dorothy Hale, and which was very sad. It said she died from falling out of the window of this building. And then I came across a more recent article about the Frida Kahlo portrait of Dorothy Hale. And for those of you who haven't seen it, brace yourself. It's a narrative painting of her final moments where she's falling out of the window and on the sidewalk. It's quite shocking. Well, that set off many, many years of trying to find out what exactly happened to her and whether or not she took her own life, which is kind of the legend that surrounds her, or if there was more to the story. And indeed, there was a lot more to the story. And, pretty early on, I discovered that she did not have a tragic life at all, which is the myth that surrounds her. She's seen as a glamorous, tragic beauty. And I found that she had quite an extraordinary and exhilarating, incredible life. I mean, extravagant life, very representative of the 1920s, the Roaring 20s. So all this time since I was at NBC until after my hiatus, I always returned to my research. I would always come back to the story whenever I had time to do it. I would come back to the research, and it was really just all about finding out what happened to her. And then I went into, by chance, I went into publishing, and as doing public relations. John is a public relations veteran for all you authors who need a representative. He's fantastic.
Good to know. Good to know.
Yeah. Yep.
Thank you.
And I just decided at some point, it was actually before I went into publishing, to write the book. But yes, I've done a few things in the storytelling platform.
Well, you've lived a life, that's for sure. But to find a story like this, it kind of reminds me of when Bill told me he was looking for a place to live.
Yes.
And he stumbled across this, this huge home there in New York with
Yes.
the cars in the driveway ready to go. And nobody had been there for decades. And he was going, whose place is this? He asked this guy, and that started this whole going down the rabbit hole. But
Right.
this is the interesting part about research. I was an art history major. I was an art major, art history minor, and I learned so much that the biggest problem with it is you get sidetracked a lot. Do you know Abbott Kohler? Do you know that author in New York City?
No.
Oh, she's one of our favorites, and she's a New York Times bestselling author, but she does historical fiction, and she does the same thing. She gets into a story and she goes, then I think, oh, I could do a story on them. I could do a story on them.
Exactly.
Did you find that happen to you too?
Yes, very much so. And, the story of Dorothy Hale ended up being the story of Dorothy Hale and Claire Booth Luce, right? And
right.
I think ultimately this is an intimate view into the hearts and mind of these two women as they navigate careers, marriages, and tragedies in their life, and I think many of us can relate to their experiences and feel deeply connected to their experiences. And I did find a couple of other characters along the way through my research who I'm very interested in, particularly one. But I think there's a lot more that I'd like to say. The character of Claire.
Oh, good.
So I think Claire might make another appearance in my next book. Because there's so much to say about her, and I don't know whether I should write a biography or a novel at this point, because I have so much I want to say, but it will be a historical novel, and she will be a part of it. So I'm excited to get to that, actually. Yeah, it is amazing. It is one of the real joys of research, to where you go down these rabbit holes. You get an idea, you get a hunch, you come across somebody who doesn't necessarily seem that significant to the story, but there's just something, and you just follow that. And I think that's when the magic happens. I think, for me in this research, a lot of what I uncovered about her life was by doing that, was just by getting a hunch about something I came across and following that. And I do think that's where the magic happens.
Well, this time period too is a hot button right now, because about 10 years ago, we had the Gilded Age was the theme of our Girlfriend Weekend, because I've always felt like that was my era that because women were really breaking out of that, Victorian mold, and
yes,
and they were real innovators. And my grandmother was such a she was something else. She, you know, she divorced, which
Yes,
nobody ever divorced in
that's
the
right.
20s, and she divorced and was having a mad wild affair with my grandfather and married him, and they were married forever. But it was, and she was very dark bobbed hair, and he was blonde and he slicked it all straight back.
Oh,
They were a very handsome couple, but
mm,
I've always been fascinated with that era. And I think now with, you know, everything that's going on with Downton Abbey and all these
yes,
other spin-offs and everything, it's, you know, the Titanic happened, or, you know, after this, it's really an interesting time period. And the more I read about it, the more I want to know. So
yes,
I'd love to
yes,
hear another book. Yeah.
yes. First of all, I'd love to see a picture of your mom or your
Oh, well,
grandmother,
my grandmother.
your grandmother.
I will post one tomorrow on the
Yes,
blog.
I'd like to see
I've
that.
got a really great picture of her all in her flapper and her
I love it.
and my grandfather in front of this car. And it was so funny. I thought they were rich, and I found out that the clothes that they had on were their employers. My
Yeah,
grandmother did housekeeping for this woman, and she dressed when they got married. They dressed them all up and put them in front of their car. And all these years, I thought my grandparents, and they really were. It was just, you know, it was just an image they put out there to all of us
yeah,
that we just bought into. But
yeah,
isn't that the way it is? We are sold stories from people who just skim the surface. But now, with the wealth of information and research that we can do through
yes.
libraries and microfiche and everything, we're finding out the real stories. Tracy and I have been talking about, you know, we just saw the new Elvis film. We've watched it a zillion times, and we're kind of amazed because now all these stories about Elvis are coming out that nobody's ever heard. And it's
Interesting.
a different picture than what we were painted with, you know.
Yes.
And it's sad to me that, so everybody listening, you better write your own story, because if somebody else writes it, they may not get it right.
That is so much at the heart of this, you
Yes.
know. And you started this conversation with something that was really important to me, which was uh, you know, Dorothy isn't here to speak for herself, and neither are her close friends. And it's quite remarkable how relevant her story is, because in her time, she was noted as a vivacious, smart, witty, dynamic, indomitable, determined, talented woman, actress with the title actress. And you would never know it. You would never know it reading any of the articles. It doesn't matter what major media outlet it is. You would never know it. Because nobody took the time to go back into the archives, and why would they? They think that that's the story, but it's quite remarkable. And what happened in her case, I don't want to give any spoilers,
No.
but I will say it's quite fascinating. What happened in her case is, after she died, there was a period of time that went by that was okay, like the reports about what happened. Did she fall? People were unsure about the circumstances. And then, you know, all it took was one famous gossip columnist,
Yeah.
Charlie Knickerbocker, and a few friends to change the story completely. And that's the story that stuck. It was so sensational. But even Charlie Knickerbocker's story changed from just right after she died. His story that he ran was kind of told the truth, the real, described her as she was known in her life. And then it just turned very quickly that he still wanted to get these eyes on, they wanted to sell papers or whatever their reasons might have been. So it's quite extraordinary. It's quite extraordinary to look at it that way. And that's the story that stuck. And it's quite, it's quite a good story. It's sensational. It's dramatic. It's a story that maybe Claire Booth Luce would write. It's very similar to a story that Claire Booth Luce wrote. So I understand how, we all understand now how the media works, but
Oh, yes.
I'll say it again and again. I'm so heartened that we now have the opportunity to look more deeply into women's stories.
Absolutely.
And tell their, celebrate their true legacies, especially as more and more information is available, online and in personal collections, etc. So, yeah. So that's interesting about Elvis after all this time, that we're hearing these new stories, right?
Oh, and they're incredible stories about
Yeah.
how loving and giving he was. And, we've heard about him giving away the Cadillacs and we've heard about,
Mhm.
but he really did a lot more than that. And he was always so kind to his fans. And there was a picture today where a group of girls attacked him and they tore his clothes off before a concert. And he was sitting in his, boxer shorts without any pants. And
Oh
he
my,
got to go on stage and they're trying to scramble to get him something to wear. They tore his clothes off of him. And, no, none of those stories ever came out. And I think, who would do that? But it
that's
did. And
especially at that time. What year is that? What
this
year?
was probably the 50s, 56
Yeah,
through the 60s,
that's
19.
pretty racy for the 50s. I mean, it's pretty racy for any time, much but the 50s.
Well, it's pretty something. And we always hear about how he was such the womanizer, but yet he was I, it's amazing. Tracy and I have just talked about this a lot because we love that movie.
Loved
But
it.
and the thing about all the big books that I pick, Pamela, is that I'm a visual person. So when I
Mhm.
read a book, I see these stories playing out and I think, these are the movies I want to see based on these books. I want to see this story made into a movie. I mean, yes, everybody knows Elvis and Marilyn Monroe and James Dean, and there's been a million movies about them. And now some of the more truthful ones are coming out. But isn't it wonderful to be able to hear a story that you've never heard before about somebody who was pretty,
It was
famous, you know?
front page of
So
the New York Times,
yeah. So
Yeah,
I applaud what you're doing and I thank you because
thank you.
this is the, um, I, you know, so many of my authors are now self-publishing and hybrids and they say it's so hard to get anything published. And I go, don't worry about that. Just write the best story you can write and they'll find a way. And then
Mm,
send them to me. I don't care who publishes it, I just want to hear the stories that I haven't heard before. Because for as many years as I've been reading, I mean, I've been running the Pulpwood Queens now for almost 23 years.
wow,
And
bravo,
we pick a lot of books every year to read. But
bravo.
even before that, as a kid, I was the kid that read every book in the library.
No,
And so, there was me and one of my best friends, who's now the librarian in my hometown. We
mhm.
were always had our nose stuck in a book. But it's, I, the more I read, the more I realize how much I don't know.
That's what happens, right? Yes, I know. When we're 20, we think we know everything.
Oh, sure.
Yes, and then that begins to change
I
along the
know
line.
nothing. I
I
absolutely, I
know.
just turned 66 and I'm going, oh my God, how am I going to learn everything before I go? So
Right, right,
I feel like I've got to read, read, read. So I've been
right.
reading. But I am so thankful that you're here. And now, do you come from a big family or?
I have two older siblings, that I'm close to.
Good.
Neither one of them is in New York, but my mother, and we can thank my mother for the publication of this book, because I might still be revising it if it wasn't for her.
Good for mom.
I'm sort of joking, but she is now 94. And she's, thinking about buying a new car, if that tells you something about her
Oh my
story.
gosh, she is my inspiration because I love women that, defy age. I think
Yeah,
that's amazing, or men too, because quite frankly, we are being sold, this thing that only young people matter. And I'm having,
oh yeah.
and that's the another wonderful thing about our book club. We're all ages. I mean, I've got book club members up in their 90s and I've
That's
got them in
amazing.
their 20s. So I
Yeah.
even got a high school girl that just joined. So
Oh, good.
yeah, so
Good.
I think it's really important that we read these stories, and we not just read stories that are, here in the States, but we read stories, and we have since the beginning from all over the world.
Hmm.
And that is our big push, um, in the last couple of years. I've been really emphasizing that more because we need to start building bridges because there's so much negative stuff going on in the world.
Yeah,
And I don't know what we can do about it unless we educate ourselves. So the more
right.
we learn about other people in other places, the
Mhm.
more we may be able to kind of understand, other cultures and other people.
I totally agree. That reminds me of there's a bookstore owner that I was introduced to. He is out west, and he's really a great guy. But he read my book. He bought my book. He read my book, and he sent me this beautiful note. He said, this is something I would have no interest in reading. It is not a I mean, it's like, Dorothy Hale was a socialite and actress in the Roaring Twenties, and Claire Booth Luce was an editor of Vogue and Vanity Fair. It's not his people, and he said, I love your book and I love that world, and I can't tell you how much I enjoyed it. And I felt like you know, there's so much division, cultural division, racial division, class division, all of it right now. Particularly, the last few years we've seen so much of that. It's really heartbreaking. But so it just reminds me of what he said, because you read a book with those kinds of people, and maybe he won't be judgmental the next time he runs into one. you know?
Well, I try to pick books from all genres, both men and women, and
Yeah,
in every things that are outside my comfort zone. I
yeah.
just really think it's more interesting to read about. I re- I remember, some of the books that we read, and we read The Canal House, which was by Mark Lee, and he was a foreign correspondent with the Los Angeles Times, and I didn't know anything about being a foreign correspondent. So we had
Mm.
Mark come, and Mark called me and said, "Hey, would you mind if I brought a reporter from the Los Angeles Times? She wants to hear about what you're doing." And I said, "Oh, really? Oh man, I'm a nervous wreck." And she goes, "Yeah." And she used to be the editor at Ms. Magazine. I thought, "Oh my God." And I worried about it. And I thought, "Oh, what if I say something wrong?"
Yeah.
And I said, "Tell her to come on." And
Yeah.
that was the most interesting experience, because she rode with me for a week to I had 12 chapters in. Now I have over 800.
I know. It's
Go
amazing.
out and take the authors to them. So I was taking Mark around in 3 states, to these events, and she rode with me. She never said a word. But when that story broke, it was 3 pages in the entertainment section of the Los Angeles
Oh,
Times, and we were on the front cover, the
wow.
tastemaker, and I got 1,000 calls. Now, let me tell you, I am from Kansas, a little bitty town, didn't
Mhm.
even have a bookstore. I mean, we sold comic books at the drugstore, and Westerns at the grocery store. We did have a library, but I don't know where the stories came in. I think it was just sitting under my grandparents' table listening to their stories.
Mm.
And, I got to hear the juicy ones because I was a real quiet child. And like I said, my grandmother was a firecracker, and she would tell some pretty racy stuff, and I would just hang on every word. But I do think that, and then, I was really insistent when I had my own two daughters, they're grown, that they see the world, they read, and I mean, every minute we go to museums and book signings. People go, "You've got a 3-year-old going to a book signing," and I go, "Well, how is she ever going to learn?"
Right.
And now they're very much into all the arts. But I think it's wonderful that we have these conversations and that we get to meet each other from other places, other worlds. I mean, I never would have met Suzanne Kamada. I mean, and come to find out, I have an author friend in Dallas that she went to graduate school with. And I mean, I just couldn't believe it. The connections, and that you're
Yeah.
connecting to Bill. And I just think and he's real good friends with Abbott Toller. So you need to meet her. She is in New York and she's writing what you're
Oh,
writing.
great.
She's fast. She's just been to the Galapagos Islands, kind of like you went on a big trip.
Oh, yeah. The Galapagos
um,
are incredible.
I'll have to get you guys connected. But so how did you and John meet each other?
So I, by chance, ended up working at a publishing house, and John was running publicity.
Oh, yeah.
John has worked with a number of Wally Lamb and there's such a long list of big names you would recognize. And he worked on those books. He made those books. He gave them life, and he's amazing. And so we met there, and have continued our friendship and working relationships sometimes. He's also a writer. He's also an author.
I need to see your book. Well, I would love to get you to our book club convention, because every single day, and I don't care how big the author is or how small, self-published, everybody goes, "Kathy, how do I get a literary agent?" I go, "Good luck."
Right. Right.
Good luck, baby. I've had a wonderful agent, but it's tough, it's really tough. And even in publicity, who do you trust? Because I've got horror stories of
it's really difficult. And even with agents, you really want to get somebody who's communicates well with you, who's available to you. Not all agents are. I actually had a literary agent for a while. I started writing Lady Be Good as a work of nonfiction in the beginning, because that seemed like the more natural thing for me to do, as being a former journalist. And he, he was really supportive and terrific. And then I decided to write it as a novel, because I felt people could really understand Dorothy and Claire on a more intimate level, with a novel. And this literary agent ended up leaving the agency and, moved on. But with publicity, yes, I mean, we all hear the stories about difficult experiences with publicists, and there's never a guarantee, right? Unless you work with John or with me.
No, there isn't a guarantee even with
No,
me.
I'm joking.
But you have
but it's
have
difficult.
somebody who reads your book. You know what I mean?
It's difficult. And Kathy, by the way, I will be going to Girlfriends Weekend.
Yay!
And,
well, let's get you on something. We're going to get you talking.
Okay.
Oh, John, you should come too, because
John, you should come.
and
Yes.
Bill, we should get Bill to come too. Even though
we should
have
get
a new
Bill.
book, it would be awesome.
I can't wait. I love, I was reading about the calendar of events, and I thought, well, Kathy is sort of a modern day Elsa Maxwell of the book world, right? I mean, you're having it's so much fun. You have themes and costumes, and it's all very glamorous and fun, and a lot of companionship. I mean, you put so much heart and soul into it. You know, I mean, you can tell just by the program you
Well,
put together.
I
Um,
worked on every side of the publishing table that you can. Started out as a bookseller, a book buyer,
Yeah.
bookstore manager, bookstore
Yeah.
owner,
Wow.
publisher's rep. You know,
Yeah.
I have done everything. And then it finally just dawned on me, you know, I played by all the rules. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And then I said, you know, it's not working. You know, it's not working. So, okay, if I was going to do this, what would I want? So I just create the party I most want to go to.
Mhm.
And I want to show the world that reading is the best entertainment in the world. So
Yeah.
we have all kinds of theme parties, and Friday night we're having a Bollywood theme because
Yeah.
we're going to launch uh, our author Anju Gatani's new Downton Abbey set in India series, Winds of Fire, and we're having a Rakesh Rakesh lookalike contest, who's one of the characters in the book. I actually did a painting of Rakesh and I sent it to her, and she said, "What did you do?" And she said, "This is exactly how I envisioned him." And I said, "Let's have a lookalike contest." So we're going to be running a contest to see if we can find some guy out there that looks like this guy and bring him to the party. But I just try to do things differently.
Yeah.
And then our great big ball of hair ball is, you know, we're wearing all white by
All
the
white.
silvery moon. We're going to have a hairball queen, a timber guy sexy reading contest.
I like that
Let
idea.
me tell you, this thing started out and people thought, well, you know, the authors and husbands would line up to read, and
Yeah.
everybody thought they knew who would win. It's never who you think it's going to be,
Good.
because we had a newspaper editor one year win, and he's a big guy, big bald guy.
Mm.
When he read, everybody just went, "Oh my gosh," you know. And Nick Counts was his name. He was with the Jefferson Giblicute. He's moved on to another newspaper, but he won, and it's just so fun. And we had a foreign exchange student show up at our girlfriend weekend that was just walked in from he was from Pakistan, and he
Mm-hmm.
with all these kids that were at SFA University, and he said, "What are you doing? What is this?" And I said, "This is an international book club convention." And he goes, "Well, I'm international. I'm from Pakistan." Well, all the kids came during the day, but he came back at night and he competed, and this kid won. And he's now an architect in Pakistan. It's just
Yeah.
so cool. He just got married. It's just so cool to keep up with these people.
That's really nice.
It's a lot of fun. And then we have our big awards ceremony, which we just started a couple of years ago, where we introduce all our 2022 books of the year, and then we announce the winners. And
Mm-hmm.
then we'll be announcing the 2023. And so we're going to introduce all the authors so people can see them. So when they read the books, they're going to put a face.
That's nice.
And we tell everybody to dress up, but don't go buy your gowns at a designer. We go to Salvation Army, Goodwill, the Closet, and we
Sunday night is the what was the Oscar
think of
theme?
the Pulpwood Queen Oscars.
Yeah, yes, that's right. That's right.
And so we have guys come in tuxedos that may be 30 years old if they can get in them. We have
I doubt it, right?
a lot of fun, and everybody at the ball dances all together as a group. And I've got a Pulpwood Queen that is bringing in my Texas crew to do the music. And this guy who does it is awesome. He never plays a slow song. We dance till we can't dance anymore. But it's a lot of fun, and people look forward to it every year. And they've been begging me to do it live, but I had to wait till it was safe.
Yeah, yeah.
I think
absolutely.
I'll have hand sanitizer and masks for those who want it. But you know, get your shots, people. I mean, I haven't gotten COVID. I've been very careful. But
Oh, knock on wood.
I'm happy to see everybody, and
Yeah.
I want us all to stay safe, but I also want us to live a life. You know, not seeing my grandson and my children was
Yeah.
tough.
Yeah. I'll
We
bet.
all are just, kind of, I think America got, or the world got more work done during COVID than we've ever had before.
Mm.
Did you had more time probably?
I was so busy during COVID. I mean, I was very careful. John can attest to this.
I was very careful.
But first of all, I mean, readers and writers, I think it's a little bit different because I mean, for me, I'm happy to just be able to focus on my work without a lot of distractions. And living in New York, it's there are always friends coming through town. There's always something going on. But I was incredibly busy. I signed my publishing contract in June of 2020. And it hasn't slowed down since. And I had my last hurrah in March. It was right before COVID started getting bad in New York and really scary. I got back about a week before from the Antarctic. So I got my travel out of my system like in the 2 years prior. So I was just fine, staying safe, staying inside. And I still double mask. I do. I'm the last man standing in New York double masking, but I don't want to get it.
No, Tracy and I were just in Dallas doing all the galleries, and we had our masks on because
Yeah.
there were a lot of people at all the.
And were there any people wearing their masks?
Yes. In fact,
good.
all the museum staff people do.
Okay.
But
Well,
there's
that's
a
good.
lot of people that don't.
Yes. Yes.
And Texas is, Texas is a different breed of people because they think they know everything. And, they just need to use your own common sense, people. I mean,
Yeah.
the more people you're around and exposed to, you just got to be careful. And, COVID hit right after Girlfriend Weekend 2020.
Oh.
Actually had some people at our Girlfriend Weekend that just got back from China that had been sick, bad
Oh.
sick, and I'm pretty sure they had COVID.
Oh. Yeah. I mean, some people didn't realize they had it, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
I came home from it sick as a dog and was in bed for a month and a half, and I didn't know what was wrong with me. And but they determined it was diabetes, but I'm not sure I didn't have COVID too. I don't know.
Interesting.
COVID aggravates diabetes.
Yeah.
Does it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Tracy's diabetic.
That makes sense.
It's really, if you've got health issues, which I, do, I've just been very, very careful. And so, but we're excited, and I'm excited that you're going to come to Girlfriend
I
Weekend.
am.
Yeah.
I reserved my hotel room. I'm ready.
Okay.
I have the dress. I'm all ready. Oh yeah.
John, you want to come
John,
to the island?
Fresh off the tux, John.
John isn't traveling lately, but no, where is
It's
it?
not
I don't
till
know where it is.
January.
Oh, no,
Amelia Island is off the coast of Florida, and it's where
right.
a lot of authors have second homes, like John Grisham, David Balducci, Michael Connelly, Stephen King has a home there. It's yachts, it's beautiful. And I'm going in early because I want to take this boat ride that actually goes into Georgia. It was a pirate haven at one point, and people were always diving there. It was actually, I think, in 7 countries had it, their flags flying there at different times. So it's got a lot of history, and it's very tiny. I think there's less than 10,000 people on the island, but they say during the big seasons, there'll be 40, 50,000 people because they come in and rent, homes and stuff. So, but we're going in January, and we're going to be at the Courtyard Marriott right on the beach, and the Spring Hill Suites. They're joining right there, and I'm ready. I'm so ready, and it won't be too hot because it'll be January. So,
and I can't wait to see Marley Rusoff there.
Yes, Marley was my agent.
She's my agent advisor.
Are you kidding?
No,
I
I
mean,
like, I
bringing
love
in
Marley.
2 authors, and I'm hoping she's bringing in a third because Paulina Porskova came years ago to Girlfriend Weekend for her first book, A Model Summer.
Mm,
And I am so impressed with her writing. And if anybody ever read the book, they would think, why would you want your daughter to become a model?
I
But
can
she's got a
imagine.
new book called No Filters, and I'm dying to read it. But she's starting a new television show. So
Oh, good. Oh, great.
but
Wow.
Marley's amazing, and Marley's on the board for the Pat Conroy Center.
Yes.
Partner with the Pat Conroy Center, and we do a big author silent auction every year. This weekend is the Pat Conroy Low Country Book Festival, and we help fund it by that auction we do every year.
I was so glad to see you posting about that and supporting that.
We've been doing it for years.
Yeah, I think
Pat
that's
Conroy was one of my favorite authors, and his wife, Cassandra, is probably, I picked her books more than any author ever. I think 7 or 8 books. And Tell Me a Story was the last one. And I'm hoping she'll be there too, because I'm trying to get her to come down with Jonathan and Marley. So they're going to be doing panels, and Marley's going to be doing a panel, and we're going to get you in there. Tracy will work on this, and we're going to have.
I like Tracy's hat. Tracy, you have a good look. You have a good look happening.
Oh, thank you.
Okay.
I've been I was recording my audiobook today.
Oh, you were?
I was.
Oh,
Thank you. And I kind of like wearing the hat because there's a light right there by me.
Oh
and
yeah.
It keeps the light off of my eyes and my glasses so that I can actually read my iPad, because I'm reading off an iPad,
okay.
narrating the book, and
Yeah.
trying to get that done so that it comes out at the end of the year. And then it's set at Sundance. So it's set at Sundance.
Yes, I know. Tell me the title again.
The Darlings of Sundance.
I know. I like that
What a
title.
great title. I love
It
this
is.
title. That's
Thanks.
fantastic.
And so we
Yeah.
have a book signing at the bookstore that's mentioned in the book, where this author has a little adventure at Sundance. And so she goes to her book signing, her first book signing, and she signs a whopping 6 books.
Well, I've been there.
And it doesn't go
Oh,
every book counts, every sale counts.
Well, she
every
does
boat
tell somebody
counts.
that, where the bathroom's located past the cookbooks.
So
I had Rupert Murdoch's wife.
oh my God.
People asking her where the bathroom was at Bloomingdale's. It was a book signing. Nobody wanted her book signed, but they wanted to know where the bathroom.
Oh my gosh.
That is so humbling.
Actually, I think every author has that story.
Yeah, every author has that story. Yeah, absolutely, one story where that happened.
But I love that you're making that connection and doing the signing at the bookstore that's in
Oh,
your
that
book.
sounds great.
I always
Everybody who comes in has to option your book.
I hope so. Oh my God, I hope so.
for years, I planned on having my book launch party at the 21 Club.
Oh
man. I have like long notes on. I was going to make it into a whole gallery with all these original gorgeous photos from the 1920s. Kathy, you would love it. Photos by all the masters like Edward Steichen, Horst P. Horst, Cecil Beaton. It was just, it was going to be like an art gallery and a book launch party and a short film, and then COVID. And then during COVID, the 21 Club closed.
Yeah.
I kind of remember.
Yeah. I mean, it just broke my heart. Isn't it incredible though? It survived. It survived the Great Depression, but it didn't survive COVID. I mean,
and I used to belong to the Players Club. Love that place.
Yes. I mean, it's old New York, right?
It's very old New York. It was Mark Twain, Edwin Booth, and General Tecumseh Sherman, and made it a gentleman's club, 1888.
Incredible.
First woman.
Where is that located? I forget. It's downtown.
16.
Yeah, downtown. Yeah, I don't think I've been there. I'd like to go there.
It's great. You should go.
Yeah. Yeah,
Find you probably know somebody that's a member. Have them
probably.
take you there, and it's great.
Yeah.
You know, Mark Twain's pool table is down in the grill,
I love it.
and
I love it.
I've had amazing conversations with amazing. I've even hung out with Elaine Stritch there.
Oh, talk to John
Who
about
else
it.
would you want to hang out with? But
I know she's so much fun.
I was gonna say a drink in her hand. I think it's
She was sober, but she was on point. Let me just put it that way.
That's
Yeah,
wonderful.
yeah.
We were honoring Edward Albee, and
Oh.
she got up and wanted her award, her Players Club award.
She was wonderful in the Albee play that she did on Broadway, and
She was,
she was fantastic in it. Yeah,
and
delicate balance. Yeah, delicate balance.
and
By the way, for readers, the Mark Twain House in Hartford,
Oh,
one of the greatest things to do.
it's really lovely.
Really is fantastic.
It is. I
It's
agree.
beautiful.
I've not done it, but
Kathy, we need to get you, all three of you, we need to get you to New York City.
You know, I took my Pulpwood Queens to New York City when my daughters graduated from high school and college. I took them and all my, about 36 of us, we did a literary tour. We were power readers. The Strand got us into the Book Expo as power readers. We went to the New York Public Library. We had parties given to us by authors in New York, and it was just fabulous. And I think I saw 4 or 5 shows while I was there, plays and musicals, but I haven't been back because, all this stuff has gone on with.
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
But Tracy wants to go up and do a book signing there. So,
Oh, good.
maybe we'll get back up there. And I have a lot of friends, a lot of authors, and a lot of people that I've stayed with when I go up there. Though it's a different kind of living because it's very tiny living in my.
Yeah, it is very,
very tiny living. But how big is my I got divorced, and so my house was like 3,500 square feet. And I go up there and I stayed with my 2 friends that lived at Central Park West, and my daughters and I shared a fold out couch bed, all 3 of us. And then we had to get up and quickly make the bed in the morning so everybody could walk through to get ready to where they were going. It was fun, but it was, I don't know if I could live like that. It's very,
yeah. Well, that those things are okay when you're, like a teenager, right? And then we grow up and we want some space.
I love seeing where people live there, but I would love to get back to New York. Love to go see some Broadway, and I love the musicals. I love the plays. I love everything about New York. So the window shopping, everything. So you're going to be working on this next book. Have you started it at all?
I've started researching, and I've started outlining it a little bit. I've also been working on a series treatment for Lady Be Good. So
good.
Yeah.
And
I want to do it in a way where I'm changing it just a little bit so that there's because I think it would be a great opportunity for an actress to play Claire Booth Luce in her later years. So the narrator is talking to Claire in her later years, and then we go back in time. Anyway.
I would love to see that, because what you may not know is I run 2 film clubs too. I run the International Pulpwood Queens and Timber Guys Film Club, and I run, because I'm the biggest Bollywood fan in the world, I run the Pulpwood Queens Shah Rukh Khan Friends and Film Club, where all we do is watch Shah Rukh Khan films and talk about Bollywood and films. The crazy thing is, we watched, he doesn't have any films out right now, so we watched RRR. Have you heard of this film?
No.
Oh my God. It is
biggest blockbuster film.
It's
I've never heard of.
But it's on Netflix.
It's on Netflix.
Okay.
RRR.
3 R's.
It has a dance sequence in it that beats any dance sequence I've ever seen in any movie anywhere.
It's
Anything.
incredible.
It's incredible.
Oh.
But what's crazy about it is my Pulpwood Queen channel, we're trying to build it up and get people to subscribe. But when we showed RRR, we have now had nearly 5,000 people watch it from India, the show. And I have the biggest fan base now from India.
That's incredible.
Well, that's the next place I'm going. So
Yes.
I want to be in a Bollywood film. That's how bad I want to be. I
Isn't
love.
there a film being made about you?
Huh?
Did I read that there's a film being made about you?
Well, before COVID, I optioned my book to film to DreamWorks.
Yes.
And the screenplay was written by Claire Sarah, and Lynn Harris is the producer. And then they sold it to Universal Canada, and they decided they weren't going to do the $20-30 million small budget films. They were only going to do the big blockbuster film.
Okay.
So I went back out to California and met with Lynn, and she said, I think we need to start over. Let's take your book and just build it. Stories about your book club, use real authors. I go, oh my God, now we're talking, because every book club movie I see is ridiculous. First of all,
yeah.
they the worst books I've ever seen in my life. And it's so stereotypical. In fact, when they aired the Tuesday night book club on television, I wrote to the producer and I said, this is the worst thing I've ever seen in my life. It never aired again, y'all. All the Pulpwood Queens, because we meet Tuesday night. And I felt like it never aired. They showed one show. But, I've seen the book club movie. I've seen, all these ones, and they're funny, but they're not the way it really is, because it's the women's stories the women that are in our book club have we are a part of each other now, like family.
Yeah.
So we've gone through the mother getting Alzheimer's, the getting breast cancer, the child, dying. We've gone through all these things together, the husband leaving the wife, all these true life stories. And then we discuss the books and we work it all out.
Right.
We hold hands, we cry, we laugh, and we drink a little wine. But it's real. We're not reading 50 Shades of Grey. We're not reading.
First book ever.
I just go, oh my God, I love Diane Keaton. I love, Jane Fonda. But why in the world, and Candice Bergen, why in the world did they pick that series? Of all the books they could pick,
Right.
country to discuss, those? And I shouldn't get up on a soapbox about it, but yeah, I'm hoping it'll still happen. But now COVID happened, and then that got nixed. So I'm back to the drawing board.
Well, you know this, I'm sure, as well as any of us. When something like that happens, we usually find out later why it happened, and we usually end up in a better place, and something better comes of those things.
I just felt like it wasn't meant to be.
Yeah.
The script would be totally different. I think if it happens, it'll be the right story. But the real story is this crazy Kansas kid was invited to, when she moved to Texas, to go to the local book club in this southern town, and that's run by the Garden Club. And I dressed up, I wore the hat. I just, I did the whole Southern Belle thing. And at the end of the meeting, when we were having cordials in this plantation home, I felt like the Help. Later when the Help came out, I felt like poor Jessica Chastain in the pot. But I said, oh, so what are we reading next month? I can't believe I read this book. I'm so excited. And the hostess gets up and grabs me by the elbow and pulls me out into the hall. And I'm just like in mid-sentence, and I go, did I say something wrong? She goes, Kathy, I don't know how to really tell you this, but we didn't invite you to be in our book club. We just invited you as a guest. Oh, Oh, I'm so sorry. I just assumed that when you invited me, she goes, well, there's only 8 in our book club. Unless somebody dies or moves away, that's all that will fit around our table.
Oh,
The whole time I'm thinking to myself, well, how did I
Pull
fit
up another
this
chair.
as a guest, So I drove home in my
Okay.
damn minivan and I go, that's not right.
it's astounding, actually.
Isn't
And that
that
was 23 years ago.
No,
And
it's
I said,
astounding.
but it's
Right.
a great catalyst to start
so
some.
I just sat down with a pen and paper and I go, okay, if I can't be in that book club, I'm going to start, because I just opened this hair salon bookstore and
Mhm.
the news was picking me up everywhere. I'm
Oh,
going to start
what
my
a
own
great
book
idea.
club.
Yeah.
And within just a relatively, really short period of time, the Oprah
Yeah.
producers called me. So I've been on Oxygen Network. And the funny thing about being on Oprah, you never meet her, producer.
Yeah.
But I was on the show with Beyonce, who was just getting her start. Can you believe
Mm,
that? I was on
no.
the show with Beyonce. And then I remember, getting in Newsweek. I got a full centerfold of my book club. And I remember I was so excited because Rick Bragg had the story right before me. And I love Rick Bragg, and I think President Bush was on the cover. But, and then Diane Sawyer calls me and she says, hey, you know, I'd love to have you come on the show. And I go, okay, and do what? And she goes, just announce the book you're reading. And so we did that 3 times and we kicked off their Read This Book Club. And then I got to go to New York and hang out with her at the concert in the park. And, all my friends are going, how do you do this? And I said, you know what? I just think of what I really want to do and I just go for it. And
Yes.
they say, well, you can't do that. And I go, yeah, you can. You just keep asking, and if they keep saying no, you just keep asking until they say yes.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, and we basically did the same thing at Sundance.
No, I called Dolly's bookstore up and I said, hey, I run this international book club. I want to bring this author in. She's written a book. And they go,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. Well, I'm amazed at everything you've done and everything you do.
Right.
And I mean, it's such a tremendous support for the authors, of course, and such an incredible community of readers and writers, and it's really remarkable. Hats off.
Well, when I
Hats
got
off to
really
you.
sick, I thought, man, I don't know how much longer I can do this. But then these authors come to me and they say, if you're not here, we don't have anybody.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
We don't have
Right.
anybody. Because I push authors' books all day long, every day, from the moment I get up
I
to
know.
I go to bed.
I
And
know.
I don't get paid for that. I
I
mean,
know.
I just do it because I love it.
Well, it's you put your passion into it, and I really think when people do that, when it's a really pure endeavor, and really passionate, and you also happen to have the smarts to do all of it and the creativity.
If
just bring so
you
much to it.
only knew how many people tell me, what a Southern, hairdresser, what would you know about books? And I go, no, I've been to 7 colleges. I graduated magna cum laude from the University of Texas. I have an art
Right.
degree and art minor. I'm continuing my education. I educate myself every day.
Hmm.
Do not put this cat in a box.
Right. Right.
I mean, when I had
Right.
Francine on, she goes, well, finally they're understanding diversity. So my book is a short story collection of Latina stories. And I said, Francine, I said, why wouldn't anybody want to read your book? You're an American, right? I go, just say you're fiction. I mean, why don't we read everybody's books, no matter what national? I mean, God, I'm everything. I'm a mutt, So I think we try to categorize people too much. Like, I just had a conversation with a woman about why is it women's fiction? They don't say men's fiction.
Mm.
And I said, well, and then one thing I learned when I took, these art history courses, that African American art was not even really recognized till the late 1800s.
Mm.
but women in art was not recognized until the 1970s.
Mm.
And I go, what do you mean? And just now, now all these stories about these masters in Europe, women of all the different,
Yeah.
Italian Renaissance were there, but they were
Yeah. I
sequestered.
mean, listen, Claire Booth Luce commissioned a portrait of Dorothy Hale. Claire, Dorothy's friend, commissioned the painting of Dorothy Hale and from Frida Kahlo. She paid $400 for it.
Oh my God.
I'm not sure how much her husband Diego Rivera was making at that time for his
A
work,
lot.
but granted, it was her first art exhibit in New York. But nevertheless, we can imagine. I mean, now it's the most valuable asset at the Phoenix Art Museum in Arizona, which is pretty remarkable, really.
Jeez.
But that's 1970s is that's sad. That's just sad that
And
women.
I tell everybody that because I go, a
recognize
lot of people just don't know this stuff.
Yeah,
I go, I wouldn't have known it if I hadn't have taken an African American
yeah,
art
Yeah.
history course. And I was just appalled at how much I didn't know.
yeah.
But the fact that, and then Asian Americans or,
Mm-hmm,
Pan Asian Americans. I mean,
mm-hmm.
I have so many friends from so many different places that I go, it's a good story. If it's a good story, it's just good story.
Right.
It's all
Right,
about
right,
story. So
right.
good for you, Pamela. I can't
Thank
wait.
you.
Have you got an idea for the next title of the book?
I've been thinking about that. Not yet, but you'll be the first to know. Not yet.
Lady Be Good was really clever, I thought.
Oh,
I
good,
thought it was
good.
really clever and different, and the cover was, stunning. And I'm an artist, so the cover is everything to me.
Mm,
And I can't believe how many people get things so wrong.
mm.
I
John and I talk about this a lot with the covers.
they
Yeah.
don't read the book,
Yeah.
obviously. When
Yes, that's exactly right.
I had a Texas author that I announced on Good Morning America, yet the cover of her book was English garden flowers, and it was set in Texas.
Right. This cover, it was a photograph taken by Edward Steichen, who was a very one of the great photographers of that era, and he did quite a lot of portrait photography for Vogue and the popular publications at the time, fashion photography, etc. And that photograph of Dorothy was taken in the 1930s by Edward Steichen. It was taken for Vogue. And we don't have time for it now, but I mean, tracking down a copy of that photograph during COVID, nonetheless, was a feat. I will just say that it was missing from the Vogue archives. I checked their international archives. I checked their archives here. It was an undertaking in itself. So I really appreciate you're saying how much you like the cover, because
I did, and I don't know, I'm sure they do at the New York Public Library, but the University of Texas Library has a art historian librarian. So she was, if I needed the most obscure thing in the world, she could help me find it. She was just amazing. And I've never heard of that before. And a lot of libraries do have that.
Yeah.
But good for you.
Yeah.
This is going to be really exciting, and I cannot wait to see what you're going to do with this.
Thank you. Thank you.
And anyway, we'll keep it going on the blog, and I'll post a picture of my grandparents tomorrow.
I will. Good.
Anything, girls, you want to ask before we go?
Girls?
Well, you know the author, but Tracy and Suzanne don't. So is there anything you guys would like to ask? Or you can too, John, if you have something.
I don't want to ask anything, but I want to say that, the minute I started reading this book, I thought of the book time and again.
Oh.
And the way it took me back to New York. And that once you read a book like this, you're in New York and you just can't not to picture that you're at the Dakota and you're thinking of Time and Again. And in this book, you're thinking of Central Park South, where Pamela lives, and all of Dorothy's haunts. And it just really arrested me in the same way that Time and Again did. And I know so many people love that book.
You know what we're going to have to do is if we bring the Pulpwood Queens back to New York when everything opens up again, is there any way to do like a walking tour?
We should. That would be great.
Oh, absolutely. John,
I would love that.
John has been all for doing something like that
Yeah.
all along. And I would love to. I would love to do that. Absolutely.
Because you never walk down Central Park South without thinking about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I mean,
Or
you
by
know,
the 21 Club, or, you know.
yeah, like when I was researching the book and certainly writing the book, and even now I can't walk into any of these places without thinking about it myself, obviously. I mean, you know, it's everywhere, really. All these incredible the King Cole Bar at the St. Regis, the Carlisle Hotel on the Upper East Side. It's so beautiful at night, Kathy. I mean, the emerald crown of the Carlisle Hotel at night it's just serene and beautiful and noble. But
And there's sound effects in the background, because I want everybody to know we're in New York.
When I was
I would love it. I hope you all do come to New York.
I used to go to New York for sales conferences, and I was in all those hotels, you know, even that World Trade Center is where we had Workman Publishing, Sterling, and all those, and now it's Airspace. That's really shocking to think, but yeah, love to come back. That would be fun, and I'd love to see that house that Bill Dedman went to check out.
Oh, yes, we could do a road trip with Bill and go look at the Huguette Clark house.
I would love it.
Tracy, did you read Empty Mansions?
I have not.
It's a tome.
It's an incredible story.
But it reads so. I read it so fast, and I watched the Sunday morning show that they did on the home out in Santa Barbara.
Santa Barbara.
And I want to go out there and see, because it's the largest collection of Impressionist paintings is out there, and her doll collection is.
Yes.
Happened to all that stuff. I got to ask Bill. So.
Oh, it's an incredible story. Yeah.
You know, Bill came to Girlfriend Weekend, and we were doing Around the World with Books, and he came in a NASA authentic space suit.
I know.
And Abbott came with him, and she had an American Airlines vintage flight attendant outfit.
Yes.
They walked in, and Bill's tall anyway. How did he find an astronaut suit that?
I don't know.
Because
He sent
astronauts
me
are little guys. So he walked in, and everybody went, oh, it was amazing. So you'll find out when you come, because the costumes are great.
He has a great sense of humor. Yeah, I love those pictures of him. And I'm just curious, Tracy, what's the date of your book launch? It's in December, right?
At some point in December, I'm still actually trying to go through everything. And Kathy is actually doing the artwork for it.
That's really?
Yeah. I'm
a nervous wreck, because this will be the actual first cover. But I know Tracy better than anybody. I've read the book. I know what to do. And she also tells me daily what I need to do. So.
And I sent her pictures of, kind of what I wanted. And I have lots of pictures of Sundance and, lots of really good stories.
What is the book about?
It is about an author who is kind of down on her luck. Mm-hmm. She's mid-list. She's in debt. She lives in New Orleans, and she's just like, she's been
we know.
It's like a lot of
a National Book Award nominee. She's had a cable TV movie made out of one of her books, so she's just not quite there. She just can't quite make it. And her best friend is a cinematographer, and she shoots a movie with the biggest actor on the planet.
Mm.
named Radley Seeger. And she just thinks, oh my gosh, our author's name is Austin Landry. And she goes, Austin, you need a vacation. Come with me to Sundance. And Austin can't afford it at all. It's just not going to happen. And she calls her agent and says, can you find me some work so I can go to Sundance? And she gets her an interview with Radley Seeger. And so she goes to stay in this rental with Radley Seeger, his girlfriend, his director of the movie, their bodyguards, their publicist, and her cinematographer best friend, and her at Sundance. And she starts having this adventure and gets caught up in everybody's drama. She gets caught up and she starts having a romance with the director of this film. And while she's having this little romance with the director, she's also supposed to be interviewing Radley. And Radley is this kind of touchy-feely, kind of happy-go-lucky actor. And the press thinks that she's his new girlfriend. So she goes from obscurity to New York Times bestseller in less than a week.
It's a fantasy.
That's all it takes, people.
all because they have mistaken Radley's generosity for gifting something to his new girlfriend. And he gifts her in the gifting suites at Sundance, he gives her an $80,000 watch.
He reminds the character, when I was reading it, I just pictured Bradley Cooper because he's so,
And what's really funny is I never pictured Bradley Cooper. I thought about him kind of, but I never picture actors or anything. And he was the one character I kept picturing an actor, and I kept picturing Matt Bomer from White Collar.
Yeah.
That's who I kept picturing. And it was just kind of weirdly insane that way. But
I absolutely know nothing about Sundance. Tracy's been. So
and
I've
had all these adventures. And one of my cohorts is Catherine Patterson's son, David Patterson. And he wrote and produced the Disney movie Bridge to Terabithia based on his mother's book. And he's also done The Great Gilly Hopkins. And so he's been one of our condo mates. I've had, we've had famous people coming through the condo at any given time. We've hung out with famous people. We've had famous people in the hot tub. It's just all these adventures that we had. And I thought, gosh, Sundance just would make such a great setting for a book. Why has anybody not done that?
Interesting.
I've never read anything about Sundance. So I just loved it. I loved it. So anyway, it's going to be an adventure, because the minute we get done with Girlfriend Weekend, we're driving back to Shreveport, throwing our bags in her house and grabbing our winter suitcases and driving to Park City, Utah.
Oh, beautiful.
We're going to drive it. I've never driven. I've always gone to the airport and had a limo pick me up and take me to Park City. We all of my Park City crew, we all try to fly in within a couple of hours of each other. We kind of we used to do spreadsheets on coordinating everything. That's how intense.
According to Pamela, she would do that.
Notebooks of Sundance where we're coordinating. I mean, I would take this notebook of, now we have to be at this party. Now we're on the list of this party, and we're going to New Line Cinema party, and it crazy, because you start at like 8 o'clock in the morning and you don't finish until about 5 o'clock the next morning.
I hope I make it.
And you started over again. And then you started all over again.
I have to take some power nap somewhere.
I can do that. I don't think I can do that I don't think I can do it anymore without, help.
Like a young person's, but
I know, borrow somebody's young energy for a week. So we're going to do a weekend of it, and just kind of hang out. David Patterson's coming in to do a panel with me, and another buddy of mine from out in LA. He's had 2 Sundance films. His name is Tim Harms, and he is Neil LaBute's producer.
Okay.
And he's coming also to do the panel. So both of us are gonna do the panel. Both of them are gonna do the panel with me as far as like the Sundance experience goes.
Oh, good,
Both
good.
of them are really gracious. They're like, yeah, I'm gonna be there. Heck freaking yeah, I'll be on a panel.
Yeah.
Well,
And
we'll tell everybody about your book too, because you never know who I might meet. I've always said I'm the Forrest Gump in the publishing world, because I have met crazy famous people at the weirdest circumstances, and but I found out, I'm just the kind I never meet a stranger. And I accidentally ran into Colin Powell on the elevator, and then I ran into him, like, he was Secretary of State. I ran into him like 5 more times, and we were on a first name basis. And at the end of it, he said, well, where am I going to run into you next, Kathy? I go, I don't know. Are you running for president? I don't know. He almost did. But I started a little Red Wagon project because of him in my hometown of Jefferson, Texas. And I dressed as a leopard, and I went out into the poorest neighborhood in town and got kids to come to the school and did story hours all summer long, dressed as a leopard. And he started this Red Wagon project about mentoring to children. And it was fun, but it was hot. I was a lot younger then. But anyway, this has been really fun. I'm really excited about. If there's any questions you have about anything, email me. I think I gave you my number.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
If you need it, call me. Suzanne, do you have anything you want to say? You're so quiet.
My screen or my camera froze, so
I realized that was the
Just like-
The most sober face I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, I was like, I'm so still. But I just wanted to say that this has been
How
like
did we not
fascinating.
realize that?
I realized it about 15 minutes ago, and I'm like, wait a minute.
Well, she's so sober.
That's what I was like.
I've been here, I've been listening, but Lady Be Good sounds fascinating. It's totally something that I would like, and I'm looking forward to reading it.
Well, I
And
think
it's great to hear the backstory.
Suzanne has a lot of books, and they're great reads. So
It's great to meet you, and thank you for joining the conversation tonight. I appreciate it.
it's great to meet everybody. John, what was your last name again?
Ekezian, Ekizian.
Ekesian.
Yes,
Wow, that's different.
it's Armenian.
Armenian. Okay, I was going. What?
and you do and you're a publicist.
I do PR and marketing consulting. Yeah.
Okay, I may have to call you then. I'm currently looking for a publicist.
Oh,
so-
great. Oh, yeah. Sure. I'd be happy to talk to you. Yeah.
All right.
And you can always reach out to me if you don't find John immediately, and I'll forward you to him.
I found his webpage actually.
Okay, good.
Oh,
good.
great.
Man, you're on the ball. I'm just trying
Kathy.
to keep up with everything.
Thank you so much, Kathy.
Thank you. I'm so looking forward to January now. I can't
I
hardly
am
stand it.
too.
And
I
no
am
telling
too.
what color my hair will be. So
I know.
I just keep, every time the more gray comes in, I just add another color. So you look young, man. I mean, your picture is great that you sent me, but in person, seeing you here, wow, you're a beauty.
Wow, thank you. That's so kind. Maybe
No,
I just
I'm
have
not.
good lighting.
The one thing that you will find out about me is I really don't have any filters, and I say exactly what I think. It gets me in a lot of trouble, but that's the way Kansans are.
Hmm.
No, we shake hands and we mean it. We
Yeah,
say what we think. Of course, most Kansans don't talk as much as I do, but it's only because my whole childhood was in sheer silence because
Oh.
my mother wouldn't let me talk. So
Oh.
now I can't stop talking, and they call me. I meant nice people, man.
Thank goodness. Thank
But
goodness.
Kathy, where do you
we
live?
Can't stop
I
talking.
live in the woods in East Texas. I have 2 lots out in the woods at Holly Lake Ranch. It's a gated community of about 5,000 people, and it's people that are in hiding.
She is isolated from the 5,000 people, by the way. You can't see anything.
I
It
have
is
my art
peaceful.
studio and I have my cabin, and I've been here for 2.5 years. So I'm, we just took a weekend to go to all the galleries in Dallas and had a ball, and I got
Right.
some of it out of my system. But we're going to Southern Festival of the Book. I'm doing a panel there with my authors, and then we're going to Girlfriend Weekend, and then I've got a bunch of art shows. So
Southern Festival of the Book, is that the Texas one or is that in
it's
Georgia?
Nashville.
Let's
It's
see.
Nashville. Oh my
It's
God.
on the capital of Nashville, and I've got Laura Bernhardt Tracy, my co-host Casey Cowers. He's a Floridian. He's got a big book coming up, and I can't even tell what it is, but it's going to be huge,
It's going to be cool.
huge, huge. He does this celebration of words. He had the Casey Cowers show. He interviews authors like Michael Conley, Jeanette Walls, Horton Foote. And he gets a lot of these audio interviews before they die. And the person that he's doing the book
Jeanette is my age. Don't say that about Jeanette.
no, Jeanette's not going to die. Jeanette's been here 3 times. So
Has she really? Oh,
Oh,
my God.
yeah, I picked her book before anybody knew who she was because she's real good friends. Let's see if you know this guy. Do you know the guy who wrote Electro Boy?
No, but I know Jeanette really well. We used to be
Well,
really good friends.
He introduced me to Jeanette,
Yeah.
said she's going to have a big book coming up and you need to get her. And so, but she's been here 3 times. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
We get some amazing people here. I don't
No,
know.
I
how
just,
you do.
we just all haven't heard from her, but we were shocked when the book came out. I mean, absolutely stunned that was Jeanette, because we thought, this is now being recorded, right? We thought she was Charlotte in Sex and the City. We thought that's who Charlotte in Sex and the City was based on, because Jeanette was so smart. She didn't talk about herself at lunch. So like you'd have lunch with her and you thought, oh, there's this, she lives on Park Avenue and blah, blah, blah. But nobody ever, I guess, bothered to ask her anything about her upbringing or what.
Nobody ever
And-
asked me anything about me. They just assume
Right.
they know me. They have no idea.
Yeah, but we
No
were
idea.
stunned. And she didn't really snooker anyone, but everybody I know was stunned. Nobody said, oh, I could tell. And it was because of libraries, I think.
When
that
I
she
read her
educated
book,
herself,
I said, how much of your story did you really actually tell? She goes, 10%.
Yeah.
I knew it because I grew up with that kind of family. So I knew it. But yeah, that book is amazing. Yeah, she came for her first book and her second book. And they teach her book at the Jefferson High School now, English department. And so we brought
Doesn't
all the
surprise me.
students over, and then Casey taught it for years. He taught at a private school, but Casey, he's got a big book coming out. And the guy did die, but he didn't think he'd be able to finish the book because the guy's wife was not going to work with him. But they said, well, I think she committed suicide. And they said, maybe you could talk to his kids. And the kids are all for it. So the book is coming out and it's going to be an amazing book. Amazing. So I really try to look for those, those stories that nobody knows about. And we've been very lucky. Jeanette Walls was one. The Help was one. Elizabeth Gilbert's Eat, Pray, Love was one of mine. Same kind of different as me.
That's
Pamela
amazing.
Hamilton.
Yeah.
Pamela Hamilton.
Yeah. So what was the last? Would you say Pamela Hamilton? Absolutely.
Pamela Hamilton.
I'm going to say I
Yeah.
knew her before the series, before she got got to walk the red carpet for
I knew Jeanette when somebody said to me, somebody has to tell Jeanette nobody's going to give a shit about her book. And I'm like, are you kidding? Nobody's going to give a shit about her book? It's wonderful.
It is wonderful.
And she was going to be the publicity director at Jeanette's publishing company. I'm like, please don't. shop.
The coolest thing about Jeanette is before she left my shop, she brought I carried hats, and she bought one of my hats to wear the Kentucky Derby. So I can say, Jeanette Wallace wore one of my hats at the Kentucky Derby.
Oh, how fabulous.
She actually wore my cowboy boots and my leopard jacket too, and a belt, because she didn't realize that we dressed up for these things. And I said, no, come here. I've got clothes. It'll fit you. And we dressed her all up, and she's wonderful. She's just wonderful.
But she had everyone faked out in New York. Everybody was faked out.
That's why the movie was, they did a pretty good job, I think. They did.
I couldn't see it because I just know her so well that it was weird for me to see somebody playing her. You know what I mean? I didn't see the movie. Yeah, it was
well, weird. Is there ever a movie that's going to be like the book? Really?
No, but not when you know the person. It's really weird when you know the person, I think.
Well, no, Pamela, we're going to see if we.
Pamela, I think you're doing the right thing of doing your own treatment and your own.
Absolutely, I wish all authors,
because you have to keep control of it. Kathy read part of the last script that's been written about for her movie. And I just kind of went, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Are you freaking kidding me? It's the worst stuff I've ever heard in my life. And they paid this woman a lot of money to do it. And it's horrible. You need to keep the integrity of what you do.
Yeah.
This shall go nameless, but somebody I know, their book was optioned. $300,000 they pay a screenwriter, and it was direct, complete.
Yeah, David Patterson.
Yeah, no, but I appreciate that, Tracy, and
I agree.
I've actually written a pilot and done the Bible and done everything. So if you ever have a question, ask me. We've been having some pretty big meetings with people. That's another reason why we're going to Sundance, is because we try to see if we can't pitch it again. We kind of let it.
And then there's Suzanne Frozen.
Yeah, Suzanne.
Suzanne. You know what? Wait a minute. Where's my camera? I got to take a picture of this.
I got my camera.
This is the funniest thing I've ever seen.
It is funny.
When people watch this later, they're going to go, why was she so serious?
Like listening intently.
You know what? You just never know what's going to happen on the crazy Pulpwood Queen channel. So thank you, Pamela. Thank you, John. Thank you, Suzanne.
Thank you, Kathy. And thank you for
joining everybody.
Tracy, we'll be in touch, okay?
Absolutely.
Okay,
Great
good.
seeing you, Suzanne. Smile, Suzanne.
And Kathy, I owe you a big hug.
We'll hug. We'll hug. We may have masks on, but
I'll have an N95 on. But
you guys have a great evening. It's all about the story, everybody. Bye-bye for now.
Bye-bye.
Bye.